What if I told you there was a new diet you could follow to lose noticeable belly fat in just 2 to 4 weeks? Would you try it? Well, there is, and sadly, almost no one knows about it until now. I've used this exact diet with thousands of online coaching clients, and in this video, I'll tell you exactly what the diet is, what foods you should be eating and avoiding on this diet, a bonus shortcut that I use to drop belly fat faster leading up to an event like a vacation, and a bonus tip that can help you with workouts as well. So let's dive right in. Eat less calories, that's what everybody tells you, but here's where most people go wrong. They want to lose fat so quickly that they start doing unsustainable things they can't keep up with. Have you ever started a diet, went super hard at it, then after a little time passes, you're like, fuck this, I'd rather be fat? What if there was a way to lose fat quickly and in a sustainable way? That's exactly what I'm gonna show you how to do right now. I used this strategy on one of our clients, Natalie, and as you can see, she broke up with her belly fat. For 3 weeks out of the month, she would eat in her regular calorie deficit. This was about 500 less calories than her maintenance calories. So if she needed 2,000 calories to maintain her weight, she ate 1,500 calories per day. And this allowed her to see slow, steady, and sustainable fat loss progress. And by the way, if you want to know what your 500 calorie deficit per day should be, there'll be a free calorie deficit calculator in the description of this video. But because Natalie wanted to lose her belly fat a little bit faster, 1 week out of the month, we did something called a fat loss accelerator week. This is where the magic really happens. During this 1 week, she would lower her calories a little bit more to a 750 calorie deficit per day. So again, just for easy math, if her maintenance calories were 2,000, a 750 calorie deficit would mean she would eat 1,250 calories per day. And I'm not telling you to do that. This is just an example. This automatically creates a bigger calorie deficit, mobilizing and losing the stored fat in your belly area. During this fat loss accelerator week, she also increased her cardio because remember, a calorie deficit means you are eating less calories than you burn. The combination of lowering her calorie intake and increasing her calorie burn leads to your belly fat loss being accelerated like an inferno. And the beauty of this strategy is you can consistently make progress. You have a week where you then speed things up even more, and then you go back to being in that consistent, regular calorie deficit. This gives you the best of both worlds, so you don't have to suffer or keep falling off track. And now you may think, oh, it's as simple as that, Eric? Well, not quite. Because if you don't eat the correct foods during your fat loss accelerator week, you'll actually ruin your fat loss progress and set yourself back. So let's talk about what foods you should and should not be eating during this week. A calorie deficit means as long as you're hitting your calorie goal, technically, you can eat any food you would like and still lose body fat. But sometimes you don't need to be technically spoken to. You need to be realistically spoken to. So let me be very clear. During this fat loss accelerator week, this is not a week where you go out to eat at restaurants a lot, you indulge and drink a lot of alcohol, or you eat a lot of processed, sugary junk foods. There's nothing wrong with any of those, and you can include them in moderation, but not during this week. And the reason being, since your calories will be cut lower, you will need to make the most of every calorie that you eat. Otherwise, you will get too hungry, low energy, and fatigued that you either won't be able to complete the week, or when you get done the week, you're just gonna go binge and fall off track. So you need to do these 3 steps that we did with our online coaching client, Zach, that helped him drop his belly fat during these weeks. Step 1, low calorie, high volume foods. You should be trying to incorporate as much of these as possible into your meals. For a visual representation, this handful of trail mix is 150 calories. And I want you to think about this big bowl is your stomach. This is 150 calories of trail mix going into your stomach. And as you can see, it doesn't take up that much space, which means you probably won't be very full and satisfied from these 150 calories. But if we take a look at strawberries, for example, this is 150 calories of strawberries. As you can see, much more food volume than the trail mix. Now I want you to imagine putting all of this food into your stomach. Look at how much more food is now in your stomach. So for the same amount of calories, you can eat a lot more food, which will help fill you up during this fat loss accelerator week. And I will put my favorite high volume, low calorie foods on the screen right here. You can take a screenshot if you would like. Now, it's not just about filling your stomach up. It's also about working with your hunger hormones and your blood sugar to keep you full. And the best way to do that is step number 2. There's one food that will keep you more full and more satisfied throughout the day than any other. And that food is going to be protein. No doubt you've heard eat more protein before, but how much should you really be eating per day? Here's what I want you to do. Take your goal body weight in pounds. So if you currently weigh 200 pounds and you want to weigh 150, use 150 and then multiply that number by 0.8. So 150 times 0.8 is 120. That's how many grams of protein you should be eating per day during your fat loss accelerator week. Now, can you eat more than that? Of course, but that should be the minimum amount that you are shooting for. I would also try to spread the protein across 3 to 5 meals throughout your day. We have found the clients we've worked with, if you only have it in 1 or 2 big meals, you just end up getting too hungry throughout the day because your calories are lower and your cardio is increased. We're gonna touch on the cardio part in a second. This usually also helps prevent overeating at night. And another tip to help prevent overeating at night is your brain sometimes thinks it's hungry when in reality, you're just dehydrated. This is why it's critical to have the proper amount of water intake during this fat loss accelerator week, so you don't get to the middle of the day or end of day and end up sabotaging your progress. What is the right amount of water? Well, no, you don't need to drink a gallon per day. For this, I want you to take your current body weight in pounds and drink half of that in ounces of water. So if you currently weigh 200 pounds, you would drink 100 ounces of water per day. And a pro tip, try to front load your day with water. So within 1 to 2 hours of waking up, get 12 to 20 ounces of water. This way you aren't playing catch up the rest of the day and you're not peeing all night long. Now remember, this fat loss accelerator week is only 1 week. That's the beauty of this plan. You don't need to do this forever, so it makes it more manageable. And again, if you need to know exactly how many calories you should be eating, click the link in the description to use my free calorie deficit calculator. Now that you have exactly what to do with your diet during this week, what about that cardio that we mentioned? Unfortunately, this is where most people mess it up and it ends up sabotaging your progress, leading you to lose no belly fat. I'm gonna teach you exactly what to do to avoid messing it up. Sound good? When doing cardio, especially during a fat loss accelerator week, majority of people would think it makes the most sense to do the cardio that burns the most calories. Things like sprinting, HIIT classes, burpees, and one could make an argument for that, but I want to provide a different perspective. Think of this as an entire plan that has to work together. During this week, you're already going to be dropping your calories lower, which means you will automatically be hungrier. If you also tack on a lot of high intensity cardio, that is going to increase your appetite, your cortisol, and your cravings. And we said this is not a week where you want to be indulging in a lot of treats or sugary foods, fast foods. So high intensity cardio where you're sweating buckets may not be the best approach during this week, because if your appetite is increased, it will make it harder to stick to your diet, which is where the majority of your fat loss is going to come from. Instead, I encourage you to take the approach we took with one of our online coaching clients, Chelsea here. Each day, she was already getting 8,000 to 10,000 steps per day during her other 3 weeks of the month. So during the Fat Loss Accelerator week, we told her to get 10,000 to 15,000 steps per day. This meant an extra 20 to 40 minutes of walking throughout the day for Chelsea, whether it was all at once in a dedicated walk on the treadmill or outside, or if it was split up little mini 10-minute walks throughout the day. Then, on top of that, after each one of her strength training workouts, she was to do a 20 to 30 minute low intensity cardio session on whatever cardio machine that she preferred, whether it's the bike, the elliptical, the treadmill, Stairmaster, whatever one she hated the least. She had to make sure she kept her heart rate around the zone 2 range. And this is really important because going above this range is usually where you will see the increase in appetite, cortisol, and cravings. But what is the zone 2 range and how do you find it? Well, it's 60 to 70% of your max heart rate. How do you find your max heart rate? Take the number 220 and minus that from your age. So for me, I am 28. Yes, I am only 28. So my max heart rate is 220 minus 28, which is 192. So 60% of 192 is 115, and 70% of 192 is 135. And I was acting like I was coming up with that in my head. I wasn't. I wrote it down. Don't worry. But for my heart rate, that's where I need to stay within to be in the zone 2 cardio range. And if you're like, Eric, I can't track my heart rate anyway, don't worry. You'll know you're in zone 2 cardio if you can do the cardio still being able to breathe through your nose and hold a conversation. Once you start having to mouth breathe and it gets high intensity, that's how you know you're out of zone 2. And we do this after our lifting workouts so that it doesn't impact our strength training, because with lower calories and with increased cardio, you're already going to be more fatigued heading into your workouts. And this brings me into my bonus tip for workouts that I want to share with you to make this entire plan all come together. You may have been wondering, Eric, with a Fat Loss Accelerator week, will my workouts suffer? Well, potentially yes. Because you have less calories coming in and more calories going out, and you're really trying to ramp up fat loss, you will have less calories, aka energy, to be able to put towards your workouts. And the mistake that people make during this Fat Loss Accelerator week is still trying to go all out in your strength training workouts, lifting as heavy as you could, pushing as close to failure as you could, because it leaves you feeling discouraged that you're not able to do that, and it potentially increases your risk of injury due to less recovery and less energy. So what we have our clients do during this Fat Loss Accelerator week is take something called a deload week. A deload week is where you intentionally lift lighter weight than what you could normally do and not push yourself as hard as you can. And you may think, Eric, won't I lose my progress by doing this? No, because A, you're still hitting your protein goal that we mentioned earlier. See how all of this comes together? And B, during this week, you're not gonna build a ton of muscle. But remember, that's not the biggest goal. Sometimes you have to slightly sacrifice building muscle for losing fat, because the main goal is to lose belly fat as quickly as you can. So once a month, you will take this deload week to ramp up that fat loss. And during this week, you'll keep your muscle building steady, and then you can get back to really pushing yourself in your workouts after the fat loss accelerator week. And we've also found for a lot of our clients, this deload week is a nice break mentally from having to have so much pressure to have the best workout and push as hard as you can. During this week, you can go in, work on your form, have some easier workouts, and then just get back to pushing yourself next week. The Fat Loss Accelerator week works wonders for those who are trying to notice significant belly fat loss in the next 2 to 4 weeks. And if I'm getting ready for a vacation or a trip coming up, instead of going 3 weeks at a more moderate, consistent calorie deficit and then 1 week in the Fat Loss Accelerator phase, I might even go 2 weeks in the moderate, consistent, steady calorie deficit and then 2 weeks in the Fat Loss Accelerator phase. But it is important you do not do more than 1 to 2 weeks of a Fat Loss Accelerator week, and here's why. Most people try to do this because they get greedy from seeing such fast progress and they want to keep going with it. It won't work because you will get too hungry, your cravings will be too strong, and mentally you will burn yourself out. This is why most people start and stop their diets so often, like we spoke about earlier. So don't just think, I'm just gonna keep this lower calories and increased cardio and push through, because you're gonna end up falling off track, overeating, and you're gonna feel like shit. Follow the plan that I laid out, stay consistent with it, and watch these changes happen week over week. And remember, if you need a free calorie deficit calculator, there'll be a link in the description of this video below. And now that you know exactly what to do with your diet, it's also crucial you know how to set up your workouts so you don't end up like that skinny fat look where you've lost the weight but you don't really look the way you want to look, which is why you need to watch this video here where I break down exactly how you should be setting up your workouts.